Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including GM struggling to keep up, NACS standardization and funding updates, Cybertruck updates, and more, so let's get into it. First up today, we have a slight update on the progression of the upcoming Tesla factory in Mexico. This factory was announced during an investor day back in March, but the project has so far been having difficulty getting off the ground. After a long period of delays, the factory was officially put on a bit of a hold back in October. During their Q3 financials meeting, Elon Musk said that due to rising interest rates and looming concerns over the economy, Tesla has opted to prioritize investment in Giga, Texas over the new factory. Those plans include moving initial production of their future affordable EV from Mexico to Texas whenever that car comes. Now we're learning that despite these delays, the project has still been moving forward slowly behind the scenes. In late October, the Mexican government announced that all of the permits for the factory had been approved, and they were just waiting on Tesla to begin construction. Now, despite the delays, Tesla has been given $135 million in incentives for this factory. These investments include the building of infrastructure to support the site, like roads and utilities, as well as payroll tax relief. We'll have to wait and see if this incentive does anything to coax Tesla into starting construction sooner than they plan. It is definitely interesting to see how Tesla's priorities here have shifted in such a short span of time. When it was announced, Tesla had lofty ambitions for this factory, aiming to beat their record of 9 months between groundbreaking and first production that they had achieved with Giga Shanghai. When Giga Shanghai opened, its priority was making Model 3s for Europe and Asia as cheaply as possible. Tesla claimed that the factory was able to produce the Model 3 about 65% cheaper than they could in the United States. Now, since the release of the Model Y worldwide, that vehicle has outpaced Model 3 production in Giga Shanghai. In 2023, Tesla produced twice as many Model Ys as Model 3s in Shanghai. This vehicle is the best-selling car in the world right now, and that comes despite having a higher price tag than the Model 3. So while Tesla is definitely planning to make this future affordable EV, the Model Y is still their largest moneymaker by far. An EV that can sell as low as $25,000 would be a game changer for the industry, but Tesla doesn't seem to want to rush things. That's likely because they want to ensure they do it correctly. The Model Y already has no problem selling, and with that car's great margins, it makes sense that they would prioritize that over making cheaper cars with seemingly smaller margins. Additionally, they have to design it to scale and achieve those margins. The current plan for Tesla is that their next-gen vehicle will come out of Texas first and then Mexico later. Next up today, GM is having trouble keeping up in the EV race, and they are finding that their predictions of beating Tesla soon were a bit lofty. Originally, GM planned to sell more EVs than Tesla by mid-decade. This year was supposed to be a breakout year for GM with EVs, but they've had production issues, which are expected to extend into 2024 and maybe longer. Interestingly, articles seem to blame EV demand here as well as part of the issue, saying that the US market has stalled, but it has actually increased in the US by 50% year over year. Mary Barra, GM's CEO, said, quote, "As we get further into the transformation to EV, it's a bit bumpy, and they are abandoning original 2024 production targets. For now, they are hoping to produce 1 million EVs in North America in 2025. Most recently, GM delayed drive unit production at their Toledo plant by 9 months, and they are pushing back the Silverado RST and GMC Sierra EV launches. As always, I'm rooting for all EV manufacturers, and I want GM to succeed here, but we're continually seeing just how difficult it is to scale electric vehicles. This isn't simply a case of an experienced automaker coming in and knocking out the new players. It's an entirely different ballgame making electric vehicles, and it will be very interesting to see what the future holds. Tesla keeps very few cars in their lineup, and is waiting until the absolute right time to launch their affordable EV. GM, on the other hand, is trying to launch a ton of EVs coming up in 2024 and 2025. We'll see how their vehicles go, with the Chevy Blazer EV being one of the first. Some reviews aren't particularly great for that car, so hopefully GM is able to figure this out. Next up today, the latest Cybertruck updates. Jay Leno released a new hour-long video with the Cybertruck, and the top executives who worked on it, Franz von Holzhausen and Lars Moravy, are featured in the video. It's a great video, and one of the first where you can see the Cybertruck truly taken off-road, outside of Tesla's own videos. But they also detail a few features we didn't know about until now. For one, the roof of the Cybertruck has a built-in roof rack mount that pops out, and within that is a 48-volt connection. This is where you'd connect their off-road light, and having this automatically integrated means it's much easier to install accessories. Regarding the Cybertruck's wade mode, Lars hints that if you get creative, the truck could float, but this is not an actual feature that he has engineered. When they enter wade mode, the details on screen show that you can drive in around 2.5 feet of water and the battery remains pressurized for 30 minutes. In response here, Elon tweeted, quote, "We are going to offer a mod package that enables Cybertruck to traverse at least 100 meters of water as a boat. Mostly just need to upgrade cabin door seals." That sounds pretty crazy, and I'm definitely not counting on that arriving. Tesla did confirm that they have over 2 million orders for the Cybertruck, and then they demoed the air suspension and how it goes up or down quickly at a rate of 0.5 inches per second. For the latest Cybertruck orders, the timeline of deliveries has been pushed back, with the Cyberbeast saying mid to late 2024, and the all-wheel drive saying January to March of 2024. Right now, it seems likely that they have volume planned for each spec, but most customers are buying the top spec. Orders have now expanded well beyond California and Texas, with customers confirming orders in at least 26 states. Some deliveries have been taking place in California and Texas, and then we saw Joe Moravy, Lars' dad, receive his in Arizona. Production is ongoing in Texas, with Cybertrucks loading up for transport, and then Joe Tegmeyer spotted 40 at Giga, Texas in holding lots. It's pretty crazy to see this many Cybertrucks lined up, and this arguably is already more than many people expected Tesla to ever make. In the wild, a Cybertruck was spotted doing a true towing operation, pulling a camping trailer, and then Elon Musk posted a cool photo of the Cybertruck in snow over in Wyoming. Next up today, Tesla has announced a new fleet deal that could help a lot of rideshare drivers switch to an electric vehicle. An exciting deal with Uber this week would give their drivers some pretty great discounts on Tesla vehicles. In recent years, Uber has been working towards electrifying the vehicles that their drivers use. A few years ago, Hertz began a program that would allow Uber drivers access to their then growing fleet of Tesla vehicles. While Hertz seems to be moving away from Teslas and EVs as a whole, Uber looks to be doubling down on their efforts. In July of this year, Uber bought 100 Model Ys for use in Tokyo, a country that Tesla has found notoriously hard to get a foothold into in the past. Now, Uber is working with Tesla to sell cars directly to their drivers at a discounted price. Uber has a vehicle marketplace where drivers can shop for new and used vehicles. Tesla has joined as a partner for this program, offering lower prices dependent on the driver's ratings. Blue and Gold Uber drivers are eligible for a $1,000 discount, Platinum for $2,000, and Diamond for $3,000. The discount does have some stipulations, though, for anyone who just thought about joining Uber for a cheaper Tesla. Drivers must take delivery of their car in December and then complete 100 trips before February 15th of 2024. This program should work great for both Tesla and Uber. This could be a great way for Tesla to get a few more sales in during the final Q4 push of 2023, and Uber can incentivize their drivers to go electric. An EV is a great idea for anyone who drives for a rideshare service. If you live in a place with good charging infrastructure, then gas savings alone would make this car a great investment very quickly. That's true for anyone that buys a Tesla, but when your living is dependent on being in a car all day, the math adds up very quickly in Tesla's favor. Next up today, we have some pretty big news for EV charging infrastructure. The Society of Automotive Engineers, or SAE, has announced that it has officially finished its certification of NACS, and it is ready to be rolled out as an EV charging standard. Now, we've been seeing plenty of other automakers announce their own plans to switch to NACS already, which is Tesla's design connector. So what does this really mean? In late 2022, Tesla released the specs of their internally developed charging system, which they then called the North American Charging Standard, or NACS. On the surface, this seemed kind of funny, given that Tesla was the only company using this charger that they were then calling a standard. But since they were the largest EV company with the most charging infrastructure, and their connector is superior in pretty much every way, it had a certain logic to it. Ford was the first legacy automaker to announce that they would be adopting NACS as their charging standard. Then GM, and now tons of other manufacturers have joined as well. This procession of EVs adopting NACS drew the attention of the SAE, an independent organization responsible for setting industry standards. It's really important when something is truly becoming a standard that it be independently assessed and not just in the hands of one company. One member of SAE's parent organization said, standardizing the NACS connector will provide certainty, expanded choice, reliability, and convenience to manufacturers and suppliers, and most of all, increase access to charging for consumers. With that, the SAE worked on an expedited timescale and has officially wrapped up their certification of this new standard. This move should do a lot to make the rollout of NACS even smoother in the near future. For one, more automakers may be enticed to join the standard now that it no longer is directly tied to Tesla. In a way, this is similar to the recent rollout of USB-C across the tech industry, a connector with a standardized design that anyone is allowed to implement. As NACS is rolled out to more vehicles, that will mean more EV customers will have access to Tesla's great and widespread supercharger network as Tesla opens them. For timeline there, Tesla's design manager of charging infrastructure announced recently that for select Ford and GM EVs, they may be able to access the supercharger network early next year. She said, quote, "Our first car companies, Ford and GM, are starting in February of 2024. Once they have the charge port and software to interface with our charging stations, they will actually be open to those vehicles." She then added, "We will be opening up to most of the other car companies in stages just to make sure we don't get swamped all at once." This is super exciting to see happening because third-party charging is the biggest downside to a non-Tesla EV by far. With this becoming standard though, you may assume that Tesla is losing all advantage here. To a degree they are, but they still have the advantage in their charging tech itself with reliability and cost. NACS supports 277 volt charging as opposed to the lower 208 to 240 volt charging of J1772. What this essentially means is that NACS has the benefit of being able to use standard commercial power sources without needing to be stepped down in voltage by a large and expensive transformer for AC charging. By removing the need to install large transformers, this makes charger installation easier and more affordable for businesses, offices, and apartment buildings. On the DC fast charger side as well, it should help with cost, but Tesla's own proprietary supercharger equipment itself is known for its very low install cost. Going forward, that could remain an advantage as they can keep expanding there and have every car charging at their own chargers. The NACS standardization also includes a provision that could allow for special charging infrastructure to be installed into light posts. We've seen this idea before here in the US, but it has never really proven itself as a great option. The J1772 connector that many feature often get beat up, laid out incorrectly, vandalized, or is just generally an inferior solution. The NACS design, however, has a special receptacle that would allow someone to bring their own cable to use at these kind of chargers, which should prove to be much more reliable. Some other benefits are that NACS can be used for both AC and DC charging, unlike J1772 and then CCS, and it could allow for faster charging of larger vehicles. Volkswagen this week was the latest automaker to announce their move to NACS. We knew it was only a matter of time, but they still hadn't announced anything until Tesla Charging tweeted, "Welcome Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, and Scout Motors owners to superchargers across North America." Tesla's senior director of charging said, "Earlier this year, the North American charging standard was just an idea. Today, with the VW Group's commitment, almost every major automotive manufacturer is on board, rallying behind a shared vision of improving charging experiences for all EV drivers. This is only the beginning of our industry-wide efforts to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy." Now that everyone is moving to this standard, it's a bit of a flip from the CCS connector standard we were headed towards. The NACS connector is better in every way, but funding has been set up for CCS connectors. So this week, the FHA has announced that it will seek feedback on how government rules should be updated to allow federal subsidies to be available to chargers with the NACS standard. That NACS connector is now also known as J3400. Today, in order to get federal money for DC fast chargers, they must have CCS connectors as well. So the process of getting this changed is underway. Essentially, it should be that you can install an NACS-only DC fast charger in the US and receive federal funding, since every electric car will be using that charging standard. I'll keep you updated on when this becomes available because it should be a good opportunity to submit feedback and ensure that the best charging standard is funded as intended. Last up today, some updates from other automakers. Porsche has just officially shown off the EV version of their popular Macan EV. The company invited some journalists out to Germany, where they were given a special insight into the upcoming vehicle and were able to learn about its specs. This will be the first vehicle that will be released using the PPE platform co-developed between Porsche and Audi. The Audi A6 e-tron was supposed to be launched on this platform back in 2022, but that was delayed until 2024. The Macan EV can output nearly 670 horsepower. With that, the car will be able to get 310 miles of WLTP range and can charge at a 400-volt charging station. Porsche shared this admittedly vague graph showing its charging curve, and it seems to be offering some very impressive charging rates. The other competitors on this graph are unlabeled, so we don't know exactly what cars it's being compared to, but in ideal charging conditions, it can go from 10 to 80% in just 22 minutes. From what they learned by launching the Taycan, they have implemented better battery conditioning software to speed up those charging times considerably. The journalists who rode in this vehicle talked about the car's very impressive track performance, as well as off-road capability. This is ultimately a luxury SUV, but it was able to handle itself very well in all of those conditions. This car seems very promising and could be a true competitor to the Model Y or even maybe the Model X, depending on its price. Acura has opened up reservations for its coming ZDX SUV, and they're adding some special perks for those who buy early. Acura is the luxury subdivision of Honda, who's been very late to the party in introducing an EV in this market. As such, this is Acura's first EV option. It will be available in both a single and dual motor variant, starting around $60,000 and $70,000 respectively. They will be selling an S-Type performance trim that can clock up to 500 horsepower and will come with an exclusive double Apex Blue Pearl exterior paint. Customers will be able to purchase this car through Acura's new omni-channel digital sales process, which means you can buy this car at a dealership or online. The company has been surprisingly unclear on exactly how much the car will cost, especially given that they claim it will begin shipments in early 2024. That's just around the corner and doesn't leave much time for them to reveal final pricing, although that's pretty similar to what Tesla did with the Cybertruck. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see the latest for the refreshed Project Juniper Model Y, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.